You're listening to Pop This, the podcast where two women talk about everything pop culture. Here are your hosts, Lisa Christiansen and Andrea Warner.
So here we are, actually 10 degrees cooler than it was a week ago at this time. Now, I know that you listen to this podcast.
Thankfully.
There's a delay. There's a week delay. But I think it's fair for us to discuss the great heat wave of Canada, which, if people are listening, they probably are Canadians, but there's probably some Americans listening who are like, we didn't know Canada could get that hot. Well, we did.
Canadians didn't know. We didn't know. Good Lord.
I have never, I have to travel. Usually, strangely, I pay to feel that way by going to foreign destinations in the summer. But holy, how did you guys do?
Terribly. I'm not a hot weather person at all. And unlike you, Lisa, I would not pay to go somewhere hot for a vacation. I just avoid the summer heat as much as possible. And it's just been miserable and hard to sleep at night. I've had a low level headache for a week. It's so, it's so awful when 25 degrees feels nice and cool.
Yeah, no, I feel like I gotta maybe put a sweater on or something now. Or I don't know.
I was lucky in that my balcony faces the water. So the first 4 days of the heat wave, most people don't know this if they didn't live on the water in the West End, but there was a huge, strong breeze coming off the water. And at one point I was sitting on my balcony and it was apparently 35 out, but I had to put on a hoodie because it was so cold in the wind. But then as soon as the sun started hitting my balcony, which happens around 4:30, it becomes a heat furnace, and it's like a blast furnace. And you go inside. Also, my air conditioner was fighting a slow attrition battle against the heat, and by Sunday, the heat had won. And on top of it all, there was a leak in the building, in the apartment upstairs for me. So they had brought in a dehumidifier and giant heater to dry out the walls of my bathroom. No. And I wasn't allowed to close the bathroom door. So my bathroom actually got up to 65 at one point. Yeah, 65 Celsius, apparently. The thermometer doesn't go that high, but it looked like it was on its way up there.
You literally didn't have to pee. You just had to go there and stand, and you sweat it all out.
Exactly. And I have a second, thankfully, I have a second bathroom, and I was considering moving into a hotel. But then by Monday, it was even though it was the hottest day, I had made an executive decision. I didn't care if I had to put new walls in my bathroom myself, and insurance wouldn't cover it. I was turning off that heater blaster. So,
yeah. And then you must have felt like you had, the sun came, or no, went down, I guess.
I felt like just a slip of a thing. I felt like I was 400 pounds lighter and 400 degrees cooler. It was lovely. But it was awful getting there.
Thing to go through because it's so all consuming. That's the only thing you can think about. There's nothing else. And my dogs, not bright. They would not drink water. They were just listless. How did your guys' dogs do? Like, mine just laid out flat and they didn't want to drink water. I was pushing water in their faces, sticking them in the bath and cooling them down.
Yeah, I made little I buy this dog broth and I made little ice cubes out of it for Frankie. And he was into those. But yeah, he'd go outside and I'd be like, are you kidding me? You're not going outside. And he'd be just scratching at the door trying to get outside. And yeah, dogs don't know. You have to sort of force them to stay in the shade and,
I know. There were a couple of times Rudy would go out for a walk and he would stop in the shade and then just be like, I'm not going any further. And
well, I found out... I filled a bathtub with a few inches of water and just stand them in it to get...
Yeah, I did that.
Because apparently it helps if you cool their feet down and splash them a little bit.
I hand-fed Birdie the ice cubes for my rosé.
Oh, and then he had a good nap, too.
Probably. Oh, yeah, absolutely. He loves a good rosé.
Oh, yeah. Not too sweet.
No, goodness, no. We like a bone dry, maybe a Côte de Nîmes, something like that.
Well, it was very difficult to get through, and I don't know what's going to happen again. And I recognize there are people who have had things much worse, where our province now is experiencing tons of forest fires as we record this podcast. So I don't mean to make light of, what has happened to our province after that, how dry it became, and the lightning strikes, but it was something to go through, something, this time of our lives, though.
We'll always have heat dome.
Well, as you can tell from listening to the podcast, Andrea Warner is not with us. She did not die. I didn't mean it like that. I meant she is...
That was quite a joke.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know if anybody would have thought that naturally. I don't...
You think we would have led with that, you mean?
Yeah.
No. I just don't think anyone's mind goes to that when they don't hear someone on a podcast.
Well, as soon as I said she's not with us, I thought that sounded
Should
odd.
I text her just to make sure she's okay right now?
She's working on a hard book deadline and so she's taken the week off.
There we go. See, that's all
But
that it was.
I would like to say that also this is the middle of our music movies and musical series, which we are all soldiering through.
And where is she?
And she just dropped off.
Right?
She just pieced out before
did.
it was over.
She did.
Even
But
though she programmed all these movies.
let's give her credit for finding a fantastic replacement host.
That's true.
Thank you. Aw.
Stephen is
Welcome,
usually a guest, if you're recognizing his voice.
And how
But
could you
this
not,
week-
really?
Yes, how could you not? He has, we have this in our notes here. He has, you may remember him from episode 42, Gay Best Friend, as well as Moonstruck and Dangerous Liaisons, and of course, Xanadu. So,
And I mean, on behalf of our podcast, I apologize for making you watch Xanadu.
I
don't think
accept
any
your
of us-
apology in good humor and bonhomie. And I also would say that Funny Girl almost makes up for it.
there we go. See, we know. We
Really?
give, we take,
Right?
we take,
Yeah,
we give.
there's a little balancing act here, There's
Yeah.
Justice is holding her scales, and Xanadu's on one side, and Funny Girl's creeping up on the other. So
There we go. Andrea, do you want to tell us a bit more about Stephen? I feel like he's a contestant on The Price is Right here. Tell us about Stephen.
Well, I mean, I just, out of anyone I know, I think that describing him as a professional gadabout is the most accurate. If there's one person I know that is a professional gadabout, it would be Stephen. But of course, he's a
housebound
writer.
for a year and a half, but a gadabout nonetheless.
His gadaboutness is just aching and itching to get out, and that's how we got him on this podcast.
I know. He's a writer, a fashion stylist, PR executive, and has been working on the same vague book concept for 5 years. Which, according to Stephen, he now freely admits is really an excuse to disappear to Paris for months at a time for quote unquote research.
Oh, very
Fair.
smart. But I've been egging him to write a Netflix series, which I'm still going to continue to egg him on to, because he told me a story one night when we were out having shots and
Smart
pickle
cocktails.
baths.
Smart
Yeah.
cocktails.
That was how it started.
Yes, it was electrolytes. It was hot that
and then
day.
it ended. And you told me a story that was so darn good that I said that has to become a series, and I've never let it go. I'm that dog with the bone. I will never let it go until I'm watching it with you on Netflix.
You could be a dog with a handheld rosé ice cube as well.
I could be, or some beef broth or whatever.
Possibly.
I mean, it's the golden age of television. Like you have all these networks that are desperate for content, and I think a lot of people are getting into the screenwriting game because there's just so many productions need to be made because people like us are just, that's all we do now is stay home and watch TV. So
I mean, I laughed so hard when he told the story. Yes, alcohol was involved, but not that much by then. And so I'm just here to make you accountable.
Okay.
That's what this is all about. This was an all ruse. This was a ruse to get you on the podcast.
I feel like I'm in an intervention. Lord.
Wow,
Maybe.
wouldn't that be amazing if like 2 or 3 years from now we're doing a podcast about this show that we talked about now?
Well, that'll be good because that's when he tries to pretend that he didn't know me and I didn't suggest it to him. And we'll be au contraire, my friend. Listen to this.
Royalties? What are those?
I don't remember. I mean, that could have been anything, Lisa. We didn't name the project. I mean, we talked about a lot of things that night. Anyway, let's get to our at hand. We are doing Funny Girl, and who is going to read the background for us?
Why don't you go for it, Lisa?
Okay, I will. Funny Girl is a 1968 American biographical musical comedy drama film directed by William Wyler. The screenplay by Isabel Lenart was adapted from her book for the stage musical of the same name. It is loosely based on the life and career of Broadway and film star and comedian Fanny Brice and her stormy relationship with entrepreneur and gambler Nicky Arnstein. Produced by Bryce's son-in-law, Ray Stark, with music and lyrics by Julie Stein and Bob Merrill, the film stars Barbra Streisand in her film debut, which is amazing, reprising her Broadway role as Bryce, and Omar Sharif as Arnstein, with a supporting cast featuring Kay Medford, Anne Francis, Walter Pidgeon, Lee Allen, and Mae Questel. A major critical and commercial success, Funny Girl became the highest-grossing film of 1968 in the United States and received 8 Academy Award nominations. Streisand won the award for Best Actress for her performance, tying with Katharine Hepburn from The Lion in Winter. Funny Girl is considered one of the... Yeah, it's amazing. Funny Girl is considered one of the greatest musical films ever.
Eva.
Sorry, that's me being Fanny Brice. Maybe someone could read the background as Fanny Brice. That would be amusing. Or maybe just to me. Or the plot synopsis.
No, I'm just going to read it. In this bittersweet classic musical drama, the vibrant and beautiful young Fanny Brice, Barbra Streisand, starts out as a bit player on the New York City vaudeville stage, but works her way up to stardom on Broadway. Valued for her vocal and comedic talents by the renowned theater impresario Florence Ziegfeld, Fanny thrives, but her relationship with her suave, imprisoned businessman husband, Nick Arnstein, is another story. So, had either of you seen Funny Girl before?
I had not seen the whole movie before. I had, however, seen Don't Rain on My Parade excerpts of that particular number a million times because I'm a homosexual and we know this song. It's the way it is. I've seen it performed in clubs. I've seen it performed on stages small and smaller. I've seen it performed in hallways. It's just a thing. So I know that song really well, but I had never, I think, watched the whole thing the whole way through.
Had you seen other Barbra Streisand musicals?
Yes. In fact, I was the last time I was able to leave Vancouver was last September, and I saw it in a cabin on Salt Spring. I saw Hello Dolly, which was her next film, incidentally directed by Gene Kelly, Xanadu tie-in.
Oh.
Yeah, and we watched it over 2 nights because we watched it on the local TV channel, and it's in Victoria, so they cut it in half because the movie's quite long. So we were living this strange island old people dream, and we tuned in each night at 8 for our installment of Hello Dolly parts 1 and parts 2. So yes, we watched that, and funnily enough, Funny Girl was up against Hello Dolly at the Tonys in 1964 before the films were made, and the Tonys were swept by Hello Dolly, and Barbara lost to the woman who was doing Dolly, Carol Channing, for Best Actress, and they lost all the awards. So she kind of got her revenge because then she got to star in the movie of Carol Channing's role 4 years later.
Revenge. A dish best served on in the movies?
I suppose. I mean, again, this is, having watched it all the way through, it's amazing how this movie, it being her first movie, which it's shocking, how she just comes through and there's this incredible star out of nowhere, assumedly. But it's also the template for every movie she made after this. Every single movie.
It's true. Every shot of her face.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's Ugly Duckling. is noticed for her talent, becomes a gorgeous woman of the world, has the man of her choice, it falls apart. This is every Barbra Streisand movie that has ever been made. So it's amazing,
broke, right? I mean,
yeah. It worked in 1968, and it has worked up until now.
What about Yentl? Did it work in Yentl? Because that's a bit different.
I mean, she didn't become glamorous, but she became a cantor. So that's something. And she was wearing the outfits. And she had Mandy Patinkin, who in those days, it was quite a catch.
I still like Mandy Patinkin.
There you go. So it was just shocking to watch, I guess, the Barbara, the very first iteration of her, and how it really she had a brand from the very beginning. The nails... those nails.
Her hands are
Fanny Brice
incredible.
didn't have those nails. It was the 1910s. You didn't have nails like that. And Barbara's the costumes in the movie, it's amazing. There she is. It's 1915, and she's got Barbara's updo. And then it's the 1920s, and she's got Barbara's 1960s shag bob. And it doesn't matter. And she's got cat eye makeup the whole way through it.
Yeah, I know.
It's when you were mentioning all the other actors who were in it as supporting cast, who cares? Like they don't even need to be there. There's no point to any of them. And I would even say it doesn't matter that Fanny Brice isn't even. It's Barbara's movie. It's Barbara's story. We don't even need the Fanny Brice is just like a coat hanger that's thrown on the floor as soon as she puts on her outfit. And it's amazing that it's just the Barbara show from beginning to end.
I just want to also flag my favorite thing is watching Barbra Streisand run. She has the most outrageous run when she goes across the yard when she sees Nikki arriving home. And in that outfit, which also did not look period appropriate. It just looked like chiffon pajamas or something. I don't know what that was. And she just goes running across the lawn to him. I haven't laughed that hard in a long time.
She does a lot of running in this movie, actually, because there's the whole running to catch the boat through the shipyards as well. There's roller skates again.
I think she's roller skates. I noticed that right away. I was shocked and appalled. Yeah.
It is two movies, right? The first half, and it's done old school style, so there is an intermission because it's 2.5+ hours. But that first movie is a really good movie. The second half is, it's not as good of a movie. It's a little, it's a lot depressing.
It's a lot depressing watching a woman be questioned by a man for how smart she is and how wonderful she is and how good she is. Yeah, but are you a 2-bit gambler that doesn't know what to do anymore? Now that's where the action is.
Yeah, I mean, I found that a little bit of a drag throughout the movie is just this constant, like, oh, she's so plain and unattractive and like songs dedicated to singing about it. And it's like, Barbra Streisand actually looks pretty good in this movie. Like, I don't know. There was a bit of a disconnect there for me. And it seemed really strange that it just kept being a beat that they came back to about like how unattractive she was compared to her husband.
The Mirror Has Two Faces was all about how she was unattractive, and then she turns into Barbara halfway through the movie. Again, this is like every Barbra Streisand movie to come out.
Yeah, I know.
Except one of my favorites that doesn't get talked about very much because I love a good farce is What's Up, Doc?
I also liked her in Nuts. She was great in Nuts too.
I never saw Nuts, but What's Up, Doc is a really fun farce in San Francisco. Her and Ryan O'Neal are so cute. It's peak Ryan O'Neal when he was just like very dreamy, like late 70s. I don't know when she made it, but it's unusual for her just because she's got a very straight hair, like almost Michelle Phillips from Mamas and the Papas hair. And just straight down curtain hair. And it's only the few times I've ever seen her look like that. And anyway, it's worth looking up. It's really very funny. And Madeline Kahn, I mean.
But I mean, Barbra Streisand just looks glamorous in every movie that I have seen her in. And this like kind of conceit that she's an ugly duckling that at the beginning of the movie is just like, I don't know.
Well, the outfit they kept putting her in, that sailor suit or whatever, didn't help, and the bangs don't help. Right. But it's not that ugly. But yeah, that Mirror Has Two Faces. That was playing last time I got a pedicure. Man, oh man. The best part of it was the two women next to me were just, oh my God, what is going on here? I mean, I'm like have you guys not seen like this movie before? But they were thoroughly upset and worried for Barbara that it wasn't going to quite work out, that Jeff Bridges wasn't going to get his stuff together. Like, this is not going to happen. And when he finally did, they were like, oh boy. And they were like older. They were older. And it was very funny to me how really, and I thought, Barbara, you're right. You made a movie that really sucked people in. Like, everyone here is very invested in this movie from the 90s.
I got to see that now. So Lisa, what did you think of Funny Girl? Had you seen it before?
I had not seen it before. I have seen Strangely Funny Face many times, which I enjoyed way more. Digression. But yeah, no, I found this to be like you said, Stephen, 2 movies. I mean, I know it was not just the intermission, but it was so depressing. I was so angry. I felt so frustrated. I have to say my favorite scene probably in the movie, though, which it's not even a musical number, I just love the way it's shot, is that after Nikki misses her debut and he comes home and he's standing at the door and all you see is the back of Barbara's head and that cigarette smoldering. And he keeps talking and talking and she's not moving, more smoldering, just the back of her head. And I was like, this is a great dramatic shot. I don't know if it belongs in this movie in terms of it being a musical. But, you know, it really lost all of its musicalness to me at the second half. Like, it didn't feel like but the first half we had this big hats and the costumes are so beautiful and roller skates
and you had stage numbers, right?
And you had stage numbers.
You had that sort of the I guess it's a trope, but you have the cutaway to different stage numbers as her career moves through different levels, right? And she's moving up in the world, and the songs are getting better, and then she's singing like one of Fanny Brice's Secondhand Clothes was one of, I guess, Fanny Brice's big other hits. So she got to sing that, and I was amazed because they only leave it. She's only doing that in rehearsal, but it was fun and colorful and lovely, and then you get to intermission, boom. You come back from intermission and it's the falling apart, I guess. It's a really long roller coaster ride down.
And also, what is up with coming to tell her you're leaving her just before she goes on stage? Is this recommended? I remember seeing this in Girls when Lena Dunham comes into Adam Driver to say, oh, by the way, I'm breaking up with you and I'm moving. And he's like, oh my God, this is my Broadway debut and you've come in to tell me you're breaking up. What? Oh, am I a narcissist? Is that what this is? Yes, you fully are. You just ruined this man's life. And Nikki comes in, 2 minutes, Miss Bryce. Yeah, just let my husband in so he's going to break my heart just before I go on stage and thrill the crowd with my musical numbers and humor.
However, the big number after that is after when they talk in the office before he's hauled off to jail. Then she ends with My Man, which it's a very quick ending. I found the ending happens. It's like a guillotine. It just comes right down, and she sings one bar of My Man, and she does a little finger gesture, and she's wearing all black, and then boom, curtain comes down, end of show, go home, good night, leave.
Well, I kind of felt relieved. I was like, finally, like, yeah. And then she has another in real life sad marriage. So
yeah. I mean, I thought it was. The story, the trajectory of the story didn't really feel well paced to me. It felt like I wasn't expecting their marriage to disintegrate. Like it did seem like it took a long time, but when it actually happened, it was like boom, that's it, done. And I felt a little bit bad for Omar Sharif because his character was so like kind of all over the place a little bit. Like he at once didn't have much to do, and then on the other hand, it's also like his character was kind of inexplicable about like why he did these things, or like how he ended up how he is. And I find it fascinating that he went from he did Dr. Zhivago and he did Lawrence of Arabia, Lawrence of Arabia, Dr. Zhivago, and then this movie, and it's like he just has nothing. I don't know, the part seems very unrewarding in this movie.
In real life?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In real life.
There you go. That's interesting. That's a little we'll just put that in a purse and hold on to that one for later.
Thanks, Lisa.
But I wonder if I just wanted you to feel like he did something with his life.
I
But
didn't mean in real life.
Oh.
I meant like in this story, he doesn't have much to do.
No, but I wondered if he was really just seemed to be playing such a terrible, terrible person, because he had, all his friends coming to try and help him, and they were kind and nice and trying to like suggest things to him. And he just, went straight into like, to chaos all the time. And so I don't know if that was how he played it, or if he was every once in a while, was like, how about a little nuance here? Maybe I could just show some affection toward this baby every once in a while too. Here's a big giant toy. Can you give it to the baby? Oh, okay, yeah.
I think Barbara only held the baby as its mother to hand it off to her maid. Right?
Yeah, I know. It was
The child. There was no baby. That was just a swaddle on set. Like, there's no way. They didn't need a kid. They didn't need a kid at all.
No, they did not. It was really depressing, actually, to watch that.
It was strange too that there's that scene where they say, "Oh yes, right away, Mr. Bryce," right? And they don't let it linger. But that was, I mean, that's a trope from every movie about a strong, independent woman. And then she marries a man who, usually isn't worthy of her. And at some point he's called Mr. her last name. That's always the beginning of the end. I don't know if it's been done so much recently, but that was the thing, right? That's how it was.
I like to imagine the conversations as the suburban couples went home after seeing the big movie of the year, and the women sitting there being very confused. Gee, she really seemed to be very successful and good at her job and really seemed to love him. Why wasn't that enough? She was too much for him. Don't you see, a man needs to be a man? And then I just imagine two very confused people going into the house. And then we had the 70s. And maybe...
It's almost like the calendar flips to 71. You're like,
yeah. It's like, honey, I'm going out and I don't know when I'll be back.
Well, I might start a business.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking at Roger Ebert in his review mentioned 1968 was the year of 2001: A Space Odyssey as well. And to think about these two movies coming out in the same year is very bizarre, because this seems like so old school musical.
Oh, now I'm imagining that couple having a real hard time at the theater. 2001? Funny girl.
No gender lines there. No heteronormative gender lines on that score.
Wouldn't Easy Rider have come out around that time as well? Wasn't that a...
Possibly. I try not to think about it. I was forced to watch that movie in film studies, and oh, Lord.
Easy Rider is 69.
69. Okay, so 1 year later after Funny Girl.
I know.
We've got Easy Rider. And Easy Rider is that movie, though. I mean, I know you probably... I didn't really care for it either, but it was a real... That was it, right? That changed Hollywood for young movies. And I mean, let's face it, Barbra Streisand was, what, 20 in this movie? 20?
She's born in 47.
Yeah, 26.
I only know that because I was looking up stuff on Wikipedia. It's not that I'm a Barbara stan to that effect. I just happen to know it was 47. I just wanted to clear the air on that. But
okay, so if you just Google popular 1968 movies, there's Planet of the Apes, Oliver, Rosemary's Baby, Once Upon a Time in the West, and Barbarella.
Wow.
Okay, I think we watched the worst of all of that, to be honest.
1968 was a roller coaster year for
no kidding.
movies.
Planet of the Apes is one of my most favorite movies of all time. I'm just here to say that. So, and just in case it ever comes up,
it could happen.
It could happen.
Okay, so I did a little bit of research on Barbara because, as I said, I'm not a Barbara stan, but I wanted to know a little bit more about her. And it became more and more like just crazy as I went through it. So the story of Fanny Bryce is basically also the story of Barbara. She grew up, but in Brooklyn, not in the Lower East Side, but she grew up very, very poor. And she always wanted to be an actress. She never wanted to be a singer as a kid, if you can believe it. And she only became a singer because a manager told her, hey, you've got a good voice. You should maybe try singing every once in a while. Wow. And her high school friend was Neil Diamond. And just a few years behind her at high school was Bobby Fischer, the famous chess player. Huh. And she grew out her nails. You know, she's got those nails in the movie that make no sense for her to have. Mm-hmm. Those were a rebellion because her mother wanted her to be a typist, so she could never type if she had long nails.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
But she does have the most beautiful hands in the world. She really does.
I'm finding out all these little things that I was like, she's so much more interesting than even I thought she was on that level. And then she, she became a producer. She did, the year that she did Funny Girl, 64, she released 2 albums. For the first 3 years of her career, she released 2 albums a year. It's just insane, the amount of work that she was doing and running around.
Wouldn't she have been 21 then if this movie is 68 and she was born in 47? Isn't that the math?
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, 21.
Oh, sorry. She was actually born in 42. So I'm a liar.
Oh, she's in 42. Then that makes sense. Okay, so now we're back on track with her being 26 or 27.
Mm-hmm.
All right, not so interesting. No, I'm still kidding. It's not. It is interesting. I do find it. It's amazing to see movies where it is someone's debut and they are just so brilliant out of the gate. Like there must be a list of that, but it is unbelievable how she just commands you to look at her. I mean, I think there must have been some other things at play, like the makeup, the costumes, the cinematography was quite beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And like we were saying, the way she was shot, it was almost as if they were like, she came in and went, here's the goal. I need to look amazing in every single shot that I'm in.
I was reading on tribecafilm.com. Matthew Ng wrote about Funny Girl, and he said, to watch Funny Girl now is to witness a born performer not only basking in her spotlight, but confidently using it to hone her craft and flex her abilities. There is no tentativeness, no betrayal of her admitted inexperience. Streisand may have been new to this more understated medium, but the camera never diminishes Streisand so much as it actually magnetizes her larger-than-life presence. The film retains what made Streisand a supremely engaging personality on the boards and tailors it to fit the frames and angles of an art form that can be far more intimate and expansive than a proscenium stage. An unacquainted viewer could easily and understandably assume that Funny Girl is a mid-career effort from Streisand and not her very first appearance on the silver screen.
Yeah, I don't even know what that must have been like to see her for the first time and just being like... And then that she did Hello, Dolly, which tells you that she was definitely... Barbara has gone her own way because, as you pointed out, all those other movies that came out, I mean, there must have been some offers to do some... interesting films. She's like, nope, Hello, Dolly. That's where I'm going next. Basically, I'm going to do the same thing again.
Yeah. This time with Gene Kelly. And
and bigger hats.
And bigger hats. And her hair, actually, she had period appropriate hair in that one. I guess Gene put his foot down. But she got to keep the nails, I think. I can't remember.
I'm sure that's in the contract.
It must have been by that point because she won the Oscar. So,
I know that Seth Rogen, who made that movie with her where she plays his mom, The Road Trip, I think it's called, or something. And he said, like, you just take time out for Barbara to do her hands. Like, it's a big deal.
Yeah, well, I mean, because the musical as a format kind of died out a little bit in the 70s. And so it's interesting to see, like, she was kind of forced to pivot her career into more rom-com type roles, whereas she was still funny, but no singing was involved.
Until A Star Is Born.
It's
which
true.
I love.
And I mean, if you
and then
consider...
her disco album, her disco work was pretty good too. With that duet, Enough Is Enough with Donna Summer. That's a dance floor number right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we have to consider that she's, like, during all this time that she's, making films, she's also putting out best-selling albums, doing tours, and, doing television specials, and, like, she's not just a film actress during the 60s and 70s.
No, she was doing everything, and then ends up with James Brolin and has
it was the
a
25th
miniature
anniversary
village in her house. Wow.
I saw it.
And cloning dogs.
Yes, well, someone had to do it, so I'm glad it was Barbara who did it first. It
Yes.
was her. It was her
point.
funny girl. It was her funny girl move. It was her first dog cloning. Just like Funny Girl was her first film, and she did the sequel to Funny Girl, Funny Woman, Funny Lady, Funny Lady.
What was that? It was in 1975.
Yeah, it was.
They waited a while.
It was the story of her Fanny's next act, I think. So the next man, and the next marriage, and the next career moves.
Right. It says it According to Wikipedia, a sequel to the 1968 film Funny Girl, it is a highly fictionalized account of the later life and career of comedian Fanny Brice and her marriage to songwriter and impresario Billy Rose. The screenplay was by J. Pearson Allen and Arnold Schulman and based on a story by Schulman. The primary score was by John Kander and Fred Ebb. Has anyone...
You can't get better than Kander and Ebb for a score. I mean, they wrote Cabaret. No. They're my favorite.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, they're my favorite Broadway duo of book and lyrics. Like Kander and Ebb are just amazing, the best.
Huh.
So I guess James Caan played her second husband.
That.
Yeah,
yeah,
Billy Rose, and Omar Sharif's in that movie too.
See, he took time out of his busy bridge winning schedule.
Should I not have mentioned the bridge? I thought it was an interesting, weird
I am going
factoid.
to pull this out anytime Omar Sharif comes. You know how you go on...
How often does he come up?
Well, not often, but you know how sometimes you're out somewhere and someone will say something. You're overseas and someone will say like, "Oh, Alanis Morissette," and if you're Canadian, you have to just say, "Well, she's Canadian." You have to jump in with that.
Yeah.
Well, next time if anybody mentions Omar Sharif, I'm like, "Bridge champion."
How did you know that,
right
Lisa?
Okay, it's weird, but knowing
like
at one
that
time,
he's got a secret skill it's a weird. Yes, please.
Well, yeah. So there would always be in the Vancouver Sun, maybe when I'd be reading it, there would be a bridge column, and it was like a weird idea where they would just show like you could play bridge, like you could see this game and what they did with the cards they were dealt. And it always said Omar Sharif. And I was always, maybe there's two. Like, why? Like it's an unusual name. Maybe, I don't know. And then I bothered to look it up one day after seeing it so many times and seeing, no, it's Omar Sharif is a bridge champion.
So that must have been syndicated because I used to see a bridge column like growing up in the papers in New York. There was a bridge column, I remember. So... I'm assuming he not only was he a champion, he was like an internationally renowned expert and journalist on the subject of bridge.
You're looking this up now?
I'm not. My hands are.
Yes, he is.
This is amazing.
If you just Google right now Omar Sharif bridge,
okay,
and see how much comes up, you will be alarmed at the fact that I think it's more than his acting at this point.
Oh my Lord! There's pictures of him with decks of cards behind him and. And like
wow.
how to win the Omar way. I didn't see that, but I think that would be a great book. That's amazing.
So I don't know that there's I said, there's almost more here.
But then you scroll down and look at the amount of films that he made too. That's incredible.
So Barbara was building malls in her basement, and Omar was kicking butt on the bridge tables in real life, in between sets and scenes. Huh.
How many films did he make?
It looks like dozens from here. He was active until 2015.
Oh, when did he die?
2015.
Oh, okay. So, and he was, wow.
Well, that works out nicely because it could have been really weird. Like, he died in 2015, but his biggest movie is coming out next week.
It's called Weekend at Omar's. Come for the party, stay for the bridge.
It's an extended bridge scene in the middle with a musical score.
You trumped my ace.
Oh.
That's all I know.
Yeah.
That's the only... I've never played bridge. Have either of you? I'm sorry, this is digressing badly.
No, but you'd need 4 people. I don't like being in a room with 3 other people, so no, I've never... Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's a team sport. It's 2 people. I don't like team sports either.
Yes.
It also says he spoke Egyptian, Arabic, English, French, and in films Spanish, Greek, and Italian.
Oh, okay. So he's
but only in films,
is what we're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, only in films. Yeah.
But
I don't want to show off. I'm just going to do it on film. I don't want to show off in real life, so I don't speak Spanish when I'm in person. But I'll speak.
But he was a huge Egyptian movie star before.
Yeah, I knew that.
Discovered him.
I also want to say I thank Funny Girl for being like, I haven't measured this or looked this up, but I do believe this might be one of the first examples of seeing a woman love bombed by a narcissist. You know that expression?
No.
Where they come on super quick and super fast to get you hooked. And then once you're hooked, they get a bit, whatever now. But everything at the beginning, and that's exactly what he did to her here. He was showing up all
Yeah.
the time, the big dinner. And then all of a sudden he's like, yeah, I'm just going to go and go here now. And I'll see you later. And he kept doing that to her over
He
and over
literally
and over
had to
again.
go see an emir about a horse. Like,
Yeah.
he had to go see a man about a horse in the middle of the movie.
Yeah, and then he doesn't see her for a year.
Yeah.
And then he comes back, and then he seduces her, and then he goes away to another tournament. So I think a lot of women could, learn some lessons from how to avoid a ne'er-do-well gambler. I think it's really hard to see. I think it, especially gets harder over the years to see women treated that way. That they're smart, they're successful, they love this man so much, and he's not only is he incapable of accepting her love, he's also he's very cruel. And I just feel like that story feels different now. Maybe I wonder what it felt like.
Yeah, well,
That's
that's what I
another
meant
Barbara
about.
movie. That's the way we were.
Oh, well, yeah.
I
but-
mean, it's true. And
It's
the kid,
true.
you never see the kid, and he never sees his daughter ever again after she was
No.
born, right?
Yeah.
Because he
But
asks-
I've heard that, just so you know, on The Way We Were, I heard that they edited a scene out, which Barbara Streisand was very disappointed in, where she was really getting back involved in politics, and it was really affecting their marriage, and that was the real thing. But they didn't want it to seem like that, because you're right, they wanted to make the movie look like he just couldn't stand her strength, but
Right.
it wasn't that she said,
Oh,
and they
okay.
cut that film out, they cut that scene out.
Huh.
That's what I
Go
meant
ahead.
So
earlier.
you're right, though, it's still that movie. Yeah.
That's what I meant earlier about the character is so self-deprecating through the whole movie, and that felt just, I don't know, like unnecessary to me.
Yeah.
Like, she's so down on herself.
But then
If
she
it-
wouldn't be funny. Like, that's part of her funny.
Yeah.
That's part of her charm. Like when she has to go to the so-called paparazzi of its day.
Right.
Well, at least he might be going to jail. Well, at least I'll know where he is then. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, she's self-deprecating from the very first line of the. She's all decked up. She goes backstage. She looks at herself in the mirror. She does like a Vogue style cover pose, and then she kind of rolls her. She goes, "Hello, gorgeous," and then she kind of
Yeah.
rolls her eyes. And is like, "Yeah, we all know this is fake." Like right off the bat, you know how she feels about herself. That she's dressed up in her best Jaguar coat and matching cloche hat, and she looks $1 million, but she doesn't feel that way on the inside, right? And this is
Well, that's
because that whole part's
she's
a
married to a
flashback.
ne'er-do-well gambler.
Exactly, and I think
Yeah.
that we should make sure that we don't ever marry ne'er-do-well gamblers.
If there's anything you get from this podcast today, listeners,
Yes,
I found
Please.
it. Yeah, it's true. But I also found it fascinating to think about Fanny Brice as a comedian, in the early 1900s, doing this kind of material that's depicted in the film of like, she kind of crashes into the wedding number that they're doing Broadway style.
it's like
but,
the marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
but she's
kind of
pregnant,
idea.
she's pregnant and it's the gag and everybody's finds it hilarious and she's making all these jokes about it. I mean, it is funny, but I wouldn't have really guessed that would resonate so well with audiences in the early 1900s.
Yeah, no,
guess-
I thought about that as well, watching it. And I also thought just that confidence of giving a woman that kind of power.
well, she took that power. She wasn't given it.
She
Like
did, yeah,
she almost
that's
got fired for that, but the audience laughed too hard because she was too brilliant. And then the other weird thing they do in the movie is that there's a cameo. There's just one little tiny scene where she comes backstage and she's wearing pigtails and it has a big lollipop. That was Fanny Brice's most beloved, well-known character. It was a radio sitcom back in the day, and it was her biggest thing she'd ever done. And they kind of just throw it into a backstage scene where she comes backstage and like, oh, your husband did something weird, and she runs out, and you see her for 10 seconds in this costume that was really Fanny Brice's the zenith of her career.
I know. I think we could have had a lot more songs. I'm sorry, Andrea. I do. Rather than these painful scenes with Nikki. I mean, I just think, they were just useless. Yeah, I'm done. Done with that whole thing. And this is, I don't want to really go back into the annals of Hollywood to have to see all of these. I want to see the happy guy, The guy who's all like, that's why I really liked, I know this is a digression, but I really liked The Long Shot with Seth Rogen and Charlize Theron.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, that's a pretty good movie.
Yeah, you've seen it?
Yeah.
Stephen?
No, I have not, but I know when you mentioned, I had to think about who it was, and I just saw a film clip in my head from it. Like I remember it
Oh, it's
coming
on
out.
Crave. It's really fun. Like I thought for a rom-com, it was quite different. And the biggest difference is this guy is not threatened at all in knowing that he is inferior to this incredible woman.
Which, I mean, I also have to say, when you mentioned Charlize Theron, I really like that she goes out of her comfort zone to do different things in different ways. Like she's done, Oscar-winning work where she played a serial killer, but then she was off with the guy who made Family Guy to do a silly Western. Like it wasn't very good.
Yeah, but then
she put
she's
herself
doing
out there to do
action
it.
films in
I
Fury
know.
Road and The Immortals. Yeah.
Yeah, it's. I think her career is very interesting. It's not
Yeah, I
like
agree.
Barbara's, but it's a very interesting, diverse career.
Well, if so, after you watch Funny Girl and you're feeling a bit, watch The Long Shot, and then you'll feel
Yeah,
it's a weird double bill that does not, that won't seem natural at the beginning until you get through it. You'll go, oh, I see where they were going. Yeah.
I found that Funny Girl fell into one of this category of surprisingly sad Broadway musicals, because we talked about this a lot with A Chorus Line.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's just like, I never really, because I'm not a big Broadway fan, I never really considered that not all musicals have like happy endings and are kind of, like stories of redemption or whatever. Like some of them are just plain end on a sad note.
Some of them
I
are
thought about that
depressing.
when I watched Cabaret at the end. I was
Yeah.
like, oh boy, they have no idea what's coming. I do.
Yeah. Well, you get little hints of it. I mean,
Yes, yes.
Cabaret is one of those ones that's really, it's dark and depressing. Even Company, I would say, Sondheim's 1960s Single People show was kind of, there's moments like the most famous song is Ladies Who Lunch, and it's about, being alone, surrounded by people and hating everybody around you in your life because everything sucks. And like, that's a pretty... that's a pretty big downer. It's also the big show-stopping number. Elaine Stritch was the one that pioneered it. But, I think musicals, everybody tends, if they don't know them, they tend to think of them as, the happy ending, color, dancing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
sometimes, they were at a certain point, but there was always there was a darker edge to a lot of them. And then in the 60s and 70s, as you mentioned, Lisa, earlier, and then the 70s came. In the 70s, the dark got turned up to 10.
Yeah.
And it was almost unfashionable to have a happy musical.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that about, I'm surprised by many movies I rewatch now from the 70s, like Saturday Night Fever. I was shocked
so
about
depressing.
how dark
So
that one was.
depressing.
Oh,
I thought
my
that was
gosh.
a movie about disco and John
Yeah,
Travolta being,
no.
and
no. That's
No,
what brings
it's
you
not.
in. And
Yeah.
then
It's
you're
actually
just
a
like,
good movie,
oh, God.
though.
It's very good, but it is
Yeah.
so depressing. And
Yeah, it is
And-
so sad.
that scene with the condom just breaks my heart every time. Oh, you just want her to get out of the car and go into the city and get a job and save yourself, young lady. Oh.
Yeah.
but then
Be like
just-
Stephanie.
But just in the 70s, movies, that was the trend in movies, I guess. They're allowed to be dark and have sad endings. And
Yeah, it was nihilistic realism, quote
Yeah.
unquote.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what they were kind of
Yeah.
going for.
And then look what happened, because we had to like switch the pendulum. We started getting like 5,000 rom-coms that are just like so much worse than the one before. So thanks for that, Hollywood.
Yeah, that and Reagan.
Yeah.
Thanks,
well,
Hollywood.
that too. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I mean, I certainly would say to see Funny Girl. It's just that it's not the title. The title is just well, I actually thought Funny Face was really good. I don't know why I'm bringing that up. They're not even the same. They just
they're
have
nothing
similar.
like each other.
However,
They're
if
completely
you
different
search for
movies.
Funny Girl on like Amazon or Netflix, Funny Face may pop up as we don't have it, but we do have this. So they're
Then watch
close.
Funny Face, and you'll
Yes.
have a way better evening for sure.
So Steven, what's your verdict on Funny Girl?
I think I as a movie itself, I like the first half, which it's standing on its own. I really enjoy that first half. The second half, it really dragged. And I think that it, as a debut of a a stellar talent and a singular talent, you can't do any better. I mean, it's insane.
No, that's true. If you want to like really get Barbara's oeuvre and see her debut and see like literally a star is born.
Is born. Yeah, I've never seen. I can't for the life of me remember a movie or a debut in a movie that just struck me as much. And I've grown up. Barbara's been around my whole life, you know, so I've seen her in every incarnation that I've been alive in, and it still was like, wow, she's so talented, like right off the bat.
Yeah.
So that was cool.
I think I would say that too. Like the reason to watch this movie, and maybe you only watch it the first half to the intermission and then just, you know.
Solid plan.
And you won't have to guess the intermission. It actually just says it right on the screen for several minutes.
But it's to appreciate just like what a sort of original star she was, and just like burst onto the scene in her first role, and how just impressive.
Even her singing is so confident.
Oh, I know. Like they're
like, yeah.
That scene where she's on the tugboat that's chasing the cruise liner so she can board it.
Yeah.
And
Don't Rain on My Parade. That's the one, baby.
Just belting out that song, and it's like, I can believe that you would be able to hear her sing that over the ocean waves as she's chasing.
So I would agree with both of you.
Liner.
The first half, thumbs up. It pops. Second half, I mean, stay to be a completist, sure. But it won't be as fun as the first half.
No, but it does pop.
And it's their fault for putting an intermission in there to give us this sense of two halves as well.
Well, that was to sell popcorn, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
fair. And also, it's like you have to pee.
It's 2.5 hours long. You're like, yikes! You need
way
some
too long.
I know.
Xanadu was only 90 minutes.
Well, that was way too long as well.
Yes, that was.
Okay, so we like to end on recommendations. What recommendations do each of you have? Do you want to start, Stephen?
Okay. I have been watching, and I just finished this series on Amazon Prime, which I rarely go onto, but I thought, why not? I've watched everything on Netflix. And if you go into the Masterpiece PBS channel, you can get it free for 30 days. It is a Finnish procedural, Lisa. Scandi Noir.
What?
There are 2 seasons, so you don't have to like ration it out like little morsels. And season 1 is called All the Sins. Season 1 is a young man or young cop is sent up north to the small town he came from. He was raised extremely religious, and he moved to the big city to get away from it all. But there's been murders of the elders in this town. So the religious
sounds
leaders,
like Midsummer now.
A little bit.
Although that's Swedish.
And his partner is a middle-aged female cop who, you know, she's a libertine, and he's a little bit more straight-laced. So anyway, they have to go solve the murder. Now, in the middle of solving the murder, they talk about how there's hardly ever any crime in this town. But the chief of police in this town is mentioned that his wife was charged with murder, but they never talk about it again. Season 2 is a prequel to season 1, and you get to see all these characters as 15 years younger and different actors sometimes playing them, and you get the story of how his wife was charged with murder. And season 1 happens in the summer, and it's Finland, so it's sunny 24 hours a day. And season
What's it
2,
called again?
All the Sins.
Okay.
And season 2 is in the dark because it's winter 15 years earlier.
Very
and
smart.
It's so cool. And then you get to see the characters as little kids or as teenagers or as younger mothers, and it's just really, really cool. And I haven't seen anything quite like it before, doing a prequel for a second season.
All right, well, mine is on Amazon Prime as well. And I'm late to this party, but I am really enjoying it. It is The Night Manager with Tom Hiddleston, Hugh Laurie, and Olivia Colman. You've seen it?
I have. Long time
it's
ago.
Really good.
It
is. 2016.
Yes.
I'm sorry I was so late. 6 episodes, and I am watching it slowly because I'm enjoying it so much.
Yes.
It is exactly. I love spy movies. I love the whole thing. It's all I can do to just like leave right now because I'm in the middle of it. I'm just about to start episode 4, and it is so great. So yeah, The Night Manager. I know it's old, but heck, 1968 for Funny Girl, so I'm like 2016. It's not a big deal.
I'm going to watch that right away. So my recommendation this week, and it's sad that Andrea Warner's not here because she's a fellow fan of this franchise, but last night we went to see F9 at the drive-in, aka
At the
F9,
drive-in.
the
That's so
Fast
amazing.
Saga, or Fast and Furious 9.
Seeing it at the drive-in.
Oh,
That's so
F9. I thought
perfect.
you were pushing a key on the.
No, Fast and Furious 9 is out. And
at the drive-in, that's brilliance.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a perfect place to see it.
it's so over the top. Like
What?
they go but it's also very tongue-in-cheek. Like their characters like have these little kind of jokes throughout, like, who are we now? Are we superheroes now? Can we just do anything? And that's just kind of a running joke through the whole thing. And they like literally they go to space. And it's
Where else was there to go? I mean, let's be honest, right?
Well,
you know, people,
wow.
beloved
Screw
character.
you, Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
well,
Richard
I was-
Branson, don't forget, now
Yeah,
it's
and
3
Richard Branson,
billionaires
yeah.
fighting to get up there first,
Yeah.
which is
Oh
scary
my
because
God.
what do they know that we don't? That 3 billionaires are all trying to get, the 3 richest men on this planet are trying to get away from it.
I think there's a Greek myth around this as well, though.
Oh, yeah. There was some wax and some wings that's
Yes,
too close to
yes.
the sun and all.
Exactly. Yes.
But so,
But,
did you love F9?
Yeah,
last night? Like, what a
Justin
great
Lin
idea.
just delivers like it's everything
Look
I
at you,
wanted.
just-
and
Justin Lin delivers.
the beloved character Han makes a comeback. You know, the whole like Justice for Han hashtag that surfaced over the last couple of years. There's like everyone, like there's so many cameos in it. Like Helen Mirren, Charlize Theron is rocking like the most amazing bowl cut you've ever seen. And you know, Michelle Rodriguez continues to be the most amazing franchise, you know, actor star, and she gets to kick ass in this movie. And yeah,
You give it
it's,
10 revs?
yeah, totally.
But what will they do? What will they do in F10 if they've already
Go
gone
into
to
the ocean.
space?
Go under
No,
the
no,
sea.
no.
Are they going to like rip the space-time continuum apart,
Maybe.
or like?
Like after
Go into
this
hyperspace?
one, you'll like, it's just so, it is ridiculous and it is over the top, but you just have to go with it. And yeah, like I have no idea where they're gonna go with F10.
Excited.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll find out.
Yes.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for listening, and Stephen, thank you for co-hosting with us.
Oh, thank you for asking
Thanks,
me. It was
Steven.
delightful.
It
You
was
know, I
really
love doing
kind.
this.
Well,
what-
it was very nice, and we'll get back at
You're such a
Andrea
wonderful
for missing a
co-host.
musical too,
Aw.
and you are so much knowledge. I mean, yeah, you didn't
Yeah.
know Omar Sharif and the bridge thing, but
No,
you
but
know.
now I do, and you know I'm going to flop that down like an ace on the table every time I can. Yes, yes, ma'am. If nothing
Everything
else,
I know about bridge, I learned from
from
Omar,
Omar
Sharif.
Sharif. That's my new favorite sentence. I'm going to find a way to work it into my daily routine.
Somehow it'll come up. It's on the Twitter bio. It's on your card. It's everywhere.
Ask me about Omar Sharif. Like, just
All right. Well, I have to try and remember what all the things Andrea Warner says that you can. Whatever. You can reach us where?
At popthiscollective@gmail.com. We've only been
There we
doing
go.
this for like 6 years, Lisa.
I
You've
never
only-
say this part.
You've heard it.
I know, but
literally hundreds of times.
Literally goes.
Lisa's part is the 5 stars. 5 stars.
Yeah,
Five. So
yeah,
that's
you can
Lisa's
rate and
part.
review us. 5
And rate us
stars
and
on
review us
iTunes.
at 5 stars, and then I say thank you to Andrea Gin for producing and co-hosting, and I say thank you to Stephen Schelling, and I guess just also a thank you to Barbara Streisand for being Barbara Streisand, because there's no other Barbara Streisand.
No.
Well said.
this movie proves it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It started like that, and it's always going to be this way.
And there's no room for another Barbara Streisand. I don't
There
think.
is not. How many clone dogs can we have? I mean, it's a situation now. All right. Well, thanks everyone. Bye.